Kansas City is smack dab in the middle of a major political fight affecting millions of people and families in our area. Thanks to urging from the president, Missouri Republicans redrew congressional districts, splitting up Kansas City to try and oust a Democrat and help Republicans in next year's midterm elections. But not so fast. Despite and in spite of this effort to ram this through, public pushback is growing. Several lawsuits now challenge the validity of this map. One even calls out an apparent mistake. They say it appears Republicans put voters in Kansas City around 70th and Troost into two districts. Critics also take issue with Governor Mike Kehoe pushing this early remapping effort by calling an extraordinary session of the General Assembly.
COVID's extraordinary, right? There's been a devastating storm that wiped out half the state, a la St. Louis or Joplin, right? That's extraordinary. The idea that there may be a lawsuit one day brought by somebody and we can't identify anybody doing any of the above is anything but extraordinary.
The NAACP and other plaintiffs call Missouri's gerrymandering effort unconstitutional. We'll see what a judge decides. Meanwhile, there's another battle taking shape. We mentioned the possibility of this last week, and now it's happening. A referendum campaign is up and running as a group called People Not Politicians works to collect more than 107,000 signatures to force this map to go to a statewide vote.
Given the amount of support we've already seen coming from Missourians about this, we are going to turn in well in excess of those numbers.
The group has until December 11th to collect and turn in enough signatures. If they succeed, voters would decide the issue at the ballot box in November of 2026, and the map wouldn't be in place for the midterms unless the General Assembly tries to push up the date. So stay tuned for that. But suffice to say, we've seen several voters and leaders speak out against the map, including Kansas City Mayor Quinton Lucas, who's here to get to the heart of the matter. Thanks for joining us. First off, how confident are you that these maps will hold up in court?
I think there are a lot of challenges to the maps. I think the petition effort is going to be successful ultimately. You get an election out of that, so that's one path. There are numerous court challenges, and if you look at the map right now, I believe there are several hundred people in Kansas City who will now be in both congressional districts. This was rushed, this was sloppy, it was wrong. It violates, in my opinion, the Missouri Constitution. So I think you have a number of challenges before we ever end up seeing these in place.
Right, and again, the whole push is to get them there for the midterms next year. And if this petition does go through, as we said, that's kind of on hold. The General Assembly, I guess, could maybe step in. But, you know, there's 81 days left for this petition push. There seems to be some more funding coming in now and a push for this petition. How do you see that going?
You know, I talked to some of the leadership in the petition effort just the other day. I think they are very confident. They have a lot of volunteers, over, I believe, 1,000 Missourians who are helping collect signatures. You have to do it in every congressional district of the state. You have to hit a number in every congressional district of the state. But if you look just at the Kansas City Metro, you get 3 pretty quickly. I think you have a lot of folks in the St. Louis Metro who are upset. You need 6 of 8 congressional districts, I think more than 16,000 signatures. It is bizarre math in terms of how we get people's voices out there, but I think they will get it done. We will have the chance to make a decision and have our voices heard.
Yeah, that's an important point. Kansas City obviously feels the brunt of this, but there are other little districts throughout the state that might start to get some consternation there.
You know, I think the clearest thing is if they can do it to us, they can do it to almost anyone. And there are a lot of people in connection with these maps. I heard from folks on the news from Peculiar, Missouri, who are saying we don't necessarily want to have the same issues with Waldo. There are people from all around what would be newly reshaped 4th and 5th districts who are saying, what is this change about? And it's really not about our voices being heard more clearly. I think you'll hear that from Missourians, and if we have an election, it goes to the ballot box, I think Missourians would vote it down.
We've heard from voters too, many of them worried about representation and even competition among addresses in Kansas City. What are you hearing? What are you telling people?
You know, I have great concern in connection with that. I think it is fair to say that if you are somebody whose #1 issue every day is agricultural policy in Missouri, is all of the issues that relates to smaller communities, maybe you don't want to be mixed up with the plaza where we're looking at infrastructure and underground water and other types of work, or downtown Kansas City. There are differences in viewpoints. We have senators that are supposed to balance statewide issues, but you have congresspeople that are really looking at communities of interest. What they have done is tried to separate all of that, and I don't think that's anything that works to the best effect of anyone. If you want to analyze it, look no further than the Kansas side, where you have a congressional district that has KCK, but also has the corners of Kansas hours and hours away. I don't think that does well for KCK or the people in rural Kansas, and I don't think it's something we should expand here in Missouri.
Yeah, and that could even change. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes. If this map stands, what does the run-up to the midterms look like for Democrats? Because then potentially you're running 4th, 5th, and 6th pretty hard.
Look, if the map survives, then there will be very real and there will be very robust challenges to each of those seats. First of all, as to the Missouri 5th District, where Emanuel Cleaver has served us well since the mid-2000s, we will continue to defend his seat. I think that's a very winnable seat. I expect a strong campaign. And in the new 4th District, where Mark Alford is, I expect us to have a candidate, good name ID, good funding to make sure that folks have a real choice.
Candidate like Quinton Lucas, would you consider a run for Congress?
You know, it's something I would evaluate to make sure Kansas Cityans have a voice. I love being mayor. I don't have any dream of really going over to Congress, but I certainly do want to make sure that Kansas Cityans are always fairly and adequately represented. It's my view that that is not Mark Alford. That is somebody who actually is representative of this community, not just trying to, I think, ignore it.
All right, well, we'll leave it there for now. We'll be watching closely. Mayor Quinton Lucas, thank you so much for your time. Stay with Heart of the Matter for Commitment 2026 coverage on this redistricting battle. We'll be watching every step of the way.